Have you ever felt like no matter how much you help someone, you always end up feeling empty with nothing in return? Sometimes we give and give, but it seems like the other person never truly changes. It's a painful feeling, isn't it? The truth is, not everyone is meant to receive our help. The Bible provides clear warnings about the types of people we should avoid helping, not out of a lack of love, but out of wisdom and obedience to God. It's important to recognize that true love isn't just about giving, but knowing when to give. In his infinite wisdom, Pope Leo XIV has shared reflections on how our help should be guided by divine wisdom, not just emotions. Proverbs chapter 4 verse 7 states, "Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom, and with all your getting, get understanding." Our help should be led by God's wisdom, not mere impulses. If you've ever felt emotionally or spiritually drained after spending time with someone, type "guard my soul" in the comments. By the end of this message, you'll understand why protecting your inner peace is not selfish, it's sacred. In this context, we can reflect on the 7 types of people the Bible warns us not to help. People who aren't truly seeking change, but are looking for someone to carry their burdens while they refuse to take responsibility for themselves. Jesus himself set boundaries. John chapter 2 verse 24 reveals that he did not allow himself to be manipulated by those who did not desire change. If Jesus set boundaries, why do we struggle to do the same? It's crucial to reflect on when we are genuinely helping and when we are simply enabling behaviors that do not lead to transformation. 1. The lazy and inactive. The first type of person is lazy and inactive. Pope Leo XIV, in his reflection, invites us to listen with spiritual ears and a discerning heart. There is a big difference between helping those who are struggling and enabling those who refuse to move. The Bible is clear. Laziness is not a weakness. It is a choice, a habit, and ultimately a form of self-sabotage. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 4 explains, "Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth." If a person refuses to work, to apply themselves, to take responsibility, the poverty they experience is not an attack from the enemy, but the result of their own neglect. Saint Paul, in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 verse 10, firmly asserts, "If anyone is not willing to work, let him not eat." This is not cruelty. It is a principle of divine responsibility. God has designed life in such a way that we reap what we sow. If a person does not show anything, they should not expect to reap anything. When we intervene and continually rescue the lazy, we are altering the divine system that was meant to bring correction. Some people confuse helping with enabling. Understand this. When you help a lazy person financially, you do not bless them. You are weakening them. When you cover for them, excuse them, or rescue them, you are robbing them of the lesson that could push them to change. Jesus himself gave a parable in Matthew chapter 25 verses 24 to 30, illustrating the cost of laziness. In it, a servant who received a talent chose to bury it instead of investing it. When the master returned, he did not reward his fear or excuses, but called him wicked and lazy, taking away the little he had. This is a biblical warning. Those who refuse to move will eventually lose even what they have. How do you know if someone is lazy or just going through a tough season? Here are some signs. They always have an excuse for why they can't work, but plenty of time for entertainment and distractions. They expect others to provide for them but are unwilling to put in the effort themselves. They have opportunities but refuse to take them. They consistently waste resources, whether money, time, or talents. They only seek help when they are in a crisis, but never take action to prevent the next one. Pope Leo XIV often speaks of how diligence and humility are keys to receiving God's blessing. I challenge you today. Who are you helping that God has perhaps called you to let go of? Pray for wisdom. Pray for discernment. For the truth is, you cannot save someone who is committed to remaining stagnant. 2. The ungrateful. Now, let us move on to the second type of person. The Bible warns us about the ungrateful. There are individuals who will receive your love, your sacrifice, your time, and your effort, yet act as if they were owed all of it. Ungratefulness is not merely a bad habit, it is a sign of a heart that has been corrupted. In Luke chapter 17, verses 17 to 18, Jesus heals 10 lepers, but only one returns to offer thanks. Jesus notices this and asks, "Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? This question is one we must ask ourselves as well. Where are the people who received help but never returned to show gratitude? Where are those who were lifted but never acknowledged the hand that reached out to them? Helping an ungrateful person is like pouring water into a bottomless pit. No matter how much you pour, it will never be enough. No matter how much you sacrifice, they will always want more. And the more you give, the less they appreciate it. The Bible gives us another stark warning in Proverbs chapter 17, verse 13. Evil will never depart from the house of one who repays good with evil. Some don't just fail to express gratitude, they turn around and mistreat the very person who helped them. Have you ever experienced this? Have you ever gone out of your way for someone, only to have them betray you, mistreat you, or walk away as if you never did anything for them? Many of you are drained and weary because you keep trying to please people who will never appreciate it. But hear this truth. God did not call you to be anyone's doormat. He did not call you to continually pour into people who refuse to value your sacrifice. Stop giving your best to those who fail to recognize it. Stop sacrificing for those who don't acknowledge it. Stop allowing people to drain you dry without offering a word of thanks. In the words of Pope Leo XIV, there is a deep understanding of human nature and the spiritual truths that guide us. Some people find themselves stuck not because of external circumstances, but because of their own ungratefulness. They remain in a state of lack because they never took the time to acknowledge the blessings they have already received. If you want to live in God's favor, developing a spirit of gratitude is essential. It is through gratitude that we open ourselves to God's abundant blessings. But there's something deeper that Pope Leo XIV highlights about walking in wisdom. To walk in wisdom means knowing when to help and when to step back. If we constantly give to the ungrateful, we may only be enabling their inability to appreciate what they have. The Bible teaches us that whatever we refuse to appreciate, we risk losing. As we reflect on this, it becomes clear that there is a balance between giving and helping people grow in their awareness and thankfulness. If they don't learn to appreciate, they will lose what they have. 3. The proud and arrogant. And then the Bible warns us about another critical group of people, the proud and arrogant. Pride is not just discouraged, it is condemned. Proverbs chapter 16 verse 18 declares, "Pride goes before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." Some people are so consumed with their own self-importance that there is no room for God. Their wisdom, their accomplishments, and their ways of doing things leave no space for correction or counsel. But what happens to someone like that? They fall every time. The Word also tells us that God opposes the proud but gives grace to the humble, as James chapter 4 verse 6 confirms. This is a crucial truth to remember. If you live in arrogance, you are not just fighting against your own circumstances or against others. You are standing in opposition to God. And we must remember this. When we are in opposition to God, we cannot win. Some might wonder, but aren't we supposed to help people? Yes, we are called to help the hurting, to lift the fallen, and to strengthen the weak. But we should not waste our time trying to help those who do not believe they need help. Pride is a closed door. When you attempt to correct a proud person, they reject your wisdom. When you try to guide them, they ignore your counsel. And when you warn them, they dismiss your advice. And let me tell you something, if you keep trying to help a proud person, you will eventually end up frustrated and exhausted. You cannot rescue someone who doesn't believe they need saving. It's important to understand the difference between confidence and arrogance. Confidence comes from trusting in God. Arrogance, on the other hand, comes from trusting in oneself. Confidence is humble. It acknowledges that God is the source of strength. Arrogance is self-centered, believing that success is a result of personal effort alone. The confident person says, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me," as Philippians chapter 4 verse 13 affirms. But the arrogant person says, "I did this, I built this, I achieved this." And when you start taking the credit that belongs to God, you set yourself up for a fall. Pope Leo XIV, in his reflections on the nature of pride, often reminds us how this same stubbornness can cloud our judgment and lead us to ignore the warnings God places before us. Pride leads us to reject wise counsel, to engage in battles we were never meant to fight. Some of you may be feeling frustrated right now as you continue to offer wisdom to those who refuse to accept it. You pour out your knowledge, but they reject it. You try to lead them, but they resist. You warn them, but they refuse to listen. And here's the truth: you cannot force wisdom onto someone who refuses to accept it. Jesus himself shared a powerful teaching in Matthew chapter 7 verse 6, stating, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces." This principle reveals a deep truth. Some people are so arrogant that they will take the wisdom you offer and trample on it. You cannot help someone who refuses to acknowledge their need for help, and you cannot correct someone who believes they are always right. If you continue to try to impart wisdom to someone who rejects it, you will only waste your time, drain your energy, and invite unnecessary stress into your life. Pope Leo XIV teaches us to use discernment. If we see pride in someone, we must confront it with love. But if they refuse to listen, we must step back and allow God to deal with them. Some lessons can only be learned through hardship. Nebuchadnezzar didn't change until he lost everything, and Pharaoh didn't break until his whole army was destroyed. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is allow someone to face the consequences of their own arrogance. 4. The wicked and sinful. As Pope Leo XIV often reflects, God knows how to humble the proud. We are also called to consider the wicked and sinful in our lives. In a world where it is often said that God loves everyone, it is important to remember that God's love does not mean He approves of everything. God does not bless wickedness, support sin, or reward rebellion. As believers, we are called to walk in wisdom. Psalm chapter 1 verse 1 mentions, "Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked." To be blessed, we must separate ourselves from those who embrace evil. We must understand that there is a difference between a sinner who repents and a wicked person who refuses to change. The Bible is clear in Proverbs chapter 6 verses 16 to 19 that there are things the Lord detests, such as lying, shedding innocent blood, and devising wicked schemes. If someone is committed to wickedness, your help will not change them, your kindness will not break them, your sacrifices will not soften their hearts. Pope Leo XIV often reflects on how, when we help the wicked, we share in their guilt. Romans chapter 1 verse 32 cautions, although they know God's righteous decree, they not only continue to do these very things, but also approve of those who practice them. Some people do not just live in darkness, they invite others to join them. When we support them, enable them, or assist in their rebellion, we partner with something God has already condemned. For those of you dealing with wicked people in your lives, whether they are family members, co-workers, or friends, Pope Leo XIV teaches us the importance of setting boundaries. Speak the truth with love, but do not compromise or support their rebellion. You can pray for them without participating in their sin. You can love them without endorsing their actions. You can intercede for them without letting them pull you into their mess. Remember, you are not God. It is not your job to save them, but to stand for righteousness. Some people will never change until they experience the consequences of their sin. 5. The foolish. Let us reflect on the foolish. Pope Leo XIV, with his pastoral wisdom, often encourages us to hear with spiritual ears. Foolishness is not about a lack of intelligence. It's about refusing to embrace wisdom. Some people struggle not because they lack opportunities or help, but because they refuse to listen. Proverbs chapter 13 verse 20 warns, "Walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm." If you keep company with foolish people, you will suffer harm, not because you are foolish, but because you are connected to them. This is why wisdom, as Pope Leo XIV teaches, is vital in our relationships, for the company we keep has a profound impact on our spiritual and emotional well-being. Sometimes, people find themselves continually helping those whom God has already warned them about. What is a fool? A fool is someone who hears wisdom but rejects it. A fool is someone who repeatedly makes the same mistakes without learning. Proverbs chapter 26 verse 11 paints a vivid picture. As a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly. That's a striking image. A dog will eat something harmful, vomit it out, and then return to eat it again. This is exactly what a fool does. They break free from bad decisions, only to return to them. They escape toxic situations, yet find themselves back in them. They receive wisdom, but ignore it. Pope Leo XIV, in his reflections, often speaks about how we must discern the right time to help others. He reminds us that we cannot save a fool. Some are frustrated because they continually pour wisdom, love, resources, and time into people who are not ready to change. No matter how much advice, correction, or warnings you offer, they return to the same poor choices. A fool will drain you. A fool will exhaust you. A fool will pull you into their dysfunction. What's worse is that a fool will make you look like the crazy one. You're the one running after them, trying to help, and they are the ones rejecting it every time. Here's the hard truth. When you keep helping a fool, you become part of the cycle. You become the one they turn to when they need rescue, but they will never change. Fools are not teachable. They want help, but they do not want corrections. They want relief, but they do not seek transformation. And if you keep trying to save them, they will drain your energy, waste your resources, and then blame you when things go wrong. This is why the Bible says in Proverbs chapter 14 verse 7, "Stay away from a fool, for you will not find knowledge on their lips." Some of you need to step back and allow life to teach them what they refuse to learn from you. You cannot save a fool. Only God can humble them. 6. The dishonest and manipulative. Number 6. The dishonest and manipulative. My friends, there are people you should never help because their intentions are not pure. These are people who do not come to you because they genuinely need help. They come because they see you as an opportunity. They come because they know you have a soft heart. They come because they know you will give without questioning. The Bible is very clear about dishonest and manipulative people. Proverbs chapter 12 verse 22 declares, "The Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy." God detests dishonesty. Why? Because deception is not just a lie, it is a tool of the enemy. 2 Corinthians chapter 11 verse 14 warns that Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. In other words, deception is not always obvious. The most dangerous liars are the ones who sound sincere. The most dangerous manipulators are the ones who know how to play the victim. A manipulative person will play with your emotions to get what they want. They will make you feel guilty. They will twist your kindness. They will use flattery, and they will pretend to be something they are not. But let me warn you, do not be deceived. Proverbs chapter 26, verses 24 to 26 cautions, "Enemies disguise themselves with their lips, but in their hearts they harbor deceit. Though their speech is charming, do not believe them. There are people who will tell you everything you want to hear just to get what they want. Some of you have fallen into this trap. You keep helping people who have proven to be dishonest. You keep giving to those who have never been truthful. And every time they get caught, they come with another excuse, another story, another manipulation. If someone has manipulated you to get your help, they do not deserve it. If they have twisted the truth, guilt-tripped you, or pressured you into giving, it's time to step back and let them go. Now, let me make it clear again. I'm not saying we shouldn't help people. I'm saying we must use discernment. There is a difference between someone who is truly in need and someone who is playing a game. Here are some signs that someone is dishonest or manipulative. They always have a story, but the details never add up. They only come around when they need something. They guilt-trip you if you hesitate to help. They have a pattern of using people. They make promises they never keep. They never take responsibility for their actions. Beloved, God did not call you to be deceived. He called you to walk in wisdom. Number 7, the unrepentant. Beloved, there is a difference between someone who struggles with sin and someone who is unrepentant. There is a difference between someone who falls and gets back up and someone who stays in their sin, refusing to change. The Bible is very clear about those who refuse to repent. Hebrews chapter 10 verse 26 warns, "If we deliberately keep on sinning after receiving the knowledge of the truth, no sacrifice for sins is left." This is a sobering word. It is one thing to fall into sin, but it is another thing entirely to deliberately continue in it after knowing the truth. Unrepentance is rebellion. Unrepentance is a heart posture that says, "I know what God says, but I don't care." When you try to help someone who is unrepentant, you are not helping them. You are enabling their rebellion. Some of you have been carrying people that God has been trying to break. You have been rescuing people that God has been trying to correct. But hear me. If you keep interfering with God's process, you will end up fighting against Him. If someone refuses to change, they will continue to misuse your help. You can pray for them. You can counsel them. You can pour out your wisdom, your love, your resources. But if they are not ready to turn away from sin, everything you do will be wasted. There are those who do not seek deliverance. They desire comfort in their sin, not correction. They long for affirmation, not transformation. But hear me, you cannot set someone free who loves their chains. When a person refuses to repent, they are storing judgment for themselves. And let me tell you, God knows how to humble the unrepentant. Beloved, hear me. God will always warn before He judges. He will always send corrections before He brings destruction. But if someone continues to harden their heart, ignore His voice, and reject His truth, they will eventually experience the full weight of their choices. God will never override free will. If someone does not want to change, God will allow them to experience the consequences of their decisions. Sometimes you have to step back and let them hit rock bottom. Not everyone is ready to receive help, especially those who remain stubborn and unrepentant. Some people suffer not because of the devil, but because of their hardened hearts. God is merciful, but He is also just. There comes a point when correction no longer works and continued efforts only leave you drained. Instead of forcing change, pray for them. Speak the truth with love, but don't chase or argue. Set clear boundaries. Let God do what only He can. Sometimes people must face hardship before turning back to Him. If you've been pouring into those who refuse to change, it may be time to step back. God may be telling you to stop fighting for people who won't fight for themselves. And if you've been the one resisting, it's not too late. God's mercy is still available. But don't let pride harden your heart any further. Ask God for discernment. Are you helping the right people? Are you planting in good soil? When you pour into those who are willing to grow, you'll see fruit. Be wise with your energy. Some people are ready, others are not. Let God show you the difference and trust Him with the rest. Some people may bring laughter, comfort, or familiarity into your life, yet slowly leave your soul feeling weary, confused, or distant from what truly matters. Not every connection, no matter how close or long-lasting, is meant to remain in your inner circle. Your soul is not a public space. It is sacred, deeply personal, and worth guarding with intention. Protecting your inner peace is not an act of selfishness. It is a sign that you recognize the value of what God has placed within you. When you set boundaries, you're not pushing people away. You're simply making space for what nurtures your spirit and helps you grow in holiness. Don't be afraid to let go of the voices, influences, or relationships that quietly pull you away from peace, purpose, and the presence of God. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and others, is to step back, choose silence over chaos, and choose Christ over comfort.